Can an avoidant man ever really fall in love with you? If so, how would you know? And what if you're missing his secret signs of love and you think he doesn't love you when he very much loves you with all of his heart? In this video, I'm going to show you how your avoidant partner almost surely does love you, but how you probably don't recognize his love because it looks so incredibly different from what you're expecting. I'm also going to show you how to help him begin loving you in a new way that feels better to you so that you know that you are loved. I'm Adam Lane Smith, the attachment specialist. This video is part of a mini series designed to debunk the biggest myths about how to change an avoidant man. Because so many women out there are following these outdated and misguided methods and losing the love of their life due to the misunderstandings that pile up in their relationships and ultimately drive him away. This series in particular is tied to the launch of my How to Love an Avoidant Man video course, which is right now on early bird special. So go check it out if you're having any of the problems mentioned in this video. Now, I've been working with avoidant men for well over 10 years now. Thousands of avoidant men from every walk of life. And I'm about to reveal to you the way that they view love, how they show love, and also how to tell if he loves you. Now, make sure you listen to the end of this video. And if this matches what you're experiencing, send this video to your avoidant partner. Just watch it with him to get his reaction, because I know he's going to say, yes, this is how I've been loving you, and I'm glad you finally see it. Now, to get there, we're going to have to go through a dark territory first. We're going to have to talk about why it doesn't seem like he loves you sometimes, even if he really does. Because let's be honest, if you're with an avoidant man, I'd bet that there are many times when you right there wonder if he ever loves you at all. In fact, there might be times when you are certain that he doesn't care about you. You might feel hurt, sad, angry, even resentful at these times because you know how much you love him and it seems like he is just throwing your love away. I know that rejection can hurt. It's one of the most painful things in the world for most people. But let me ask you, is he really rejecting you? Are you really sure? Let's make sure. Let's talk about avoidant brain chemistry and how this is usually holding avoidant men back from showing you the love that you desire in the way that you expect to see. Now, there are 6 brain chemicals you really need to know about. The first chemical you need to know about is cortisol. We're going to put it over here. Cortisol is huge stress. It usually comes paired with adrenaline and other things that happen in the brain, but let's talk cortisol right there. That is a gigantic stress factor in your brain. When you get stressed, that dumps into your system. Now, the other brain chemicals are over here, and they're good ones. One is oxytocin, the love hormone that releases when you feel safe and cared for, and you feel like somebody cares about you personally. This is oxytocin. Cortisol can block that, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. The second one is GABA, G-A-B-A. This is released when you have high oxytocin. GABA is an inhibitory neurotransmitter that shuts down cortisol and stress in the future. It helps release melatonin so you sleep better at night. It basically turns off that hypervigilant state where you are always stressed and afraid that something's about to go wrong, and it allows you to feel fully relaxed. Your brain says, I don't have to be stressed all the time and I can sleep because somebody loves me. The third chemical you need to know is vasopressin. When you solve stress together with a partner, with a friend, vasopressin is released and says, I can trust this person. I'm safe because someone will solve problems with me. It's an amazing hormone that's absolutely crucial that very few people really know about. The fourth brain chemical, serotonin. This is a mood enhancer that makes you feel content, happy, satisfied, satiated, everything. This is where a lot of our happiness is supposed to stem from, and it comes, on a large extent, through great conversations and warm, wonderful, loving experiences with other humans. The last one is dopamine. Little tiny, hey, that felt good, do that again. That felt good, do that again. Little tiny pleasure nudges is what a dopamine piece is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be life, it's supposed to kind of direct your behavior here and there to reward you. Now, when you have avoidant attachment style, your brain looks like this. You have a massive cortisol all the time. It's a survival adaptation that kicks on to protect him from a bad environment where nobody is going to care about how he feels, low GABA, low vasopressin from no solving problems, very few emotional connections with people, maximum high cortisol and stress all the time. Most avoidant men have 7 out of 10 anxiety levels, but they don't realize it. They think they have 0 out of 10. They think they are calm and that is the floor. They think 7 is minimum. So they flood with dopamine all the time to try to feel better. This is their brain right here. Okay? This is their brain. I shouldn't even be giving a thumbs up because it's a bad image. This is their brain. High cortisol, maximum dopamine as often as possible. Maximize pleasure, minimize pain. That's what his brain does, and it's geared for that. Okay? He understands cortisol bad, dopamine good. Those are the things his brain tracks. He also tracks resources as keeping him safe. His brain is built, and it's clicked into survival mode, to survive in a world where nobody was going to care about him as a kid. Nobody was going to be reliable. People would be arbitrary. People would be smothering. People would be demanding. He had to step away and protect himself, and now he accrues resources because he can trust those. He can't trust people because people are not reliable. So now he survives through stress, through managing stress with dopamine, and accruing resources and power and position. This does not mean he's some sort of drug lord. It does not mean that he is a villain, a supervillain. It means acquiring reasonable wealth, finances, control, power, where people cannot control him. It's not about controlling other people. It's about making sure they cannot control him. Make sense? All of this builds safety for him. All of this builds security. All of this builds reliability in himself. So when it comes time to love you, sharing his time with you, that he could use tracking risks, managing risks, accruing more resources, sharing his time with you is a measurement of love. Sharing his resources with you, that he has fought tooth and nail for, that if you imagine in a post-apocalyptic wasteland that resources are everything, he's giving you his time and resources when he could be fighting for more. That's a measurement of his love. He's also listening to your feelings. He's also listening to your thoughts. He's also listening to things that don't make sense to him. Your brain might have all the chemicals, and you're trying to feel all these things and talk to him about feelings and desires and connection and solving problems, and he has no idea, but he's trying to nurture you. Usually what he's trying to do is give you dopamine. He doesn't understand he's actually bonding you with oxytocin, and he's not getting that bond. He's trying to give you dopamine to feel good. He's trying to reduce your cortisol and give you dopamine. He's trying to reduce your pain and give you pleasure. You want emotional intimacy. You want lovey-dovey. You want his desire to hold your hand. You want him to want to be with you. You want him to open up to you, right? The problem is, this actually is his love for you. Imagine you're in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. You would say, wow, this man loves me. He spends time with me. He takes care of me. He listens to my feelings. He's feeding me. He's protecting me, right? Assuming you're dependent on him, assuming that you don't have archery skills yourself. But you are being protected and provided for. That's what he's doing. That is his measurement of love for the world that his brain operates in. There's a huge problem here, though. This doesn't feel like love. And he's not properly chemically bonded to you. Okay? This is the disconnect. You're expecting a brain that does this. His brain does this. This is the problem. It's not that he doesn't love you. It's that his measurement of love in a harsh world is very different from your measurement of love in a less harsh world, in a loving world. Maybe not a perfect world, but your measurements of love are different. Your chemicals are different. And actually, most avoidant men have never felt what it's even like to have the full brain chemistry, so they don't know what you want. When you say, I want to feel loved, they have no measurement for that. Does that mean dopamine? Does that mean I give you lots of good feelings? You want me to make you feel good? Okay, I can do that. That's the problem. So let's talk about why his method of love leads you both to heartbreak. And frankly, how it can ruin the family that you two are trying to build together and the marriage that you are trying to build. Avoidant men, as we've said, have that brain chemistry unique to survival. That brain chemistry is very, very poor for bonding. I have a lot of executive clients who come in for coaching, and that brain chemistry is amazing for climbing the mountain and becoming that powerful leader at the top. But it's almost impossible to stay at that mountaintop because you cannot maintain relationships with other executives, with board members, with the people you're mentoring, with your successor, with your partner, with your kids. Everything completely falls apart. And because you're endlessly stressed, everything starts to fall apart and you fall back down the mountain that you just climbed. Now, sure, These avoidant men do love you. The answer to the question at the beginning of this video, can avoidant men love? Absolutely yes. They do love you. But over time, their brain chemistry leads to serious problems that destroy the sustainability of long-term bonding. Okay? I've had plenty of guys come in who have been married for 20 years, and they say, I have loved my wife with all of my heart, but she has been convinced for 10 years I'm having an affair, and I have never had an affair, and I never will, but she really truly believes it, and she thinks I don't love her. I have plenty of cases where guys come in and say, you know what? I think I need to get a divorce from my wife because I just don't feel good. And it's been 5 years now into the marriage and it just feels terrible. And I think that we're miserable. And the only option really is to end it. We should never have got married in the first place because monogamy is a mistake. Because again, no real bonding. Endless dopamine. And that dopamine goes away, you guys. After about 7 months, the novelty dopamine dies in the relationship. That's why those guys tend to turn to things to spice up the bedroom, bring more dopamine back, but that won't really work long term. You can't just escalate endlessly forever. I have plenty of cases of clients who've come in that tried to open up their marriage for exactly this purpose, and all it did was utterly destroy their bond and their connection. It does not work that way, you guys. You cannot get that dopamine back. Not like that. Okay, those 6 brain chemicals are vital for long-term bonding, and that's why this is happening. That oxytocin, his cortisol is actually going onto the oxytocin receptor sites and blocking them so that the oxytocin bonds won't form. That's a massive problem. This is what we call the death spiral. His brain is now so saturated with cortisol and so deficient on oxytocin that he's not achieving oxytocin bonding with you because it's blocked. This will make it feel like he's never been truly loved in his life. And when you say you need to feel loved, he doesn't know how to do that. You're looking for oxytocin bonding. He's given you some because he thought he was giving you dopamine, but it made you feel loved. Then he withdraws. Then he pulls away. This makes you feel unloved. It actually creates withdrawal effects in your brain. It hurts. It creates pain effects. This decreases your GABA. Now, your GABA, again, makes you feel safe and loved, and it makes you feel low stress. It actually decreases your cortisol, so you go into an upward spiral when you get oxytocin and GABA, but you go in a downward spiral when you don't. Because he pulls away and doesn't solve problems with you, you don't get vasopressin bonding, and neither does he. This is crucial, actually, the research shows, for long-term marriage sustainment. And this brings back the honeymoon for the passion and the love and the connection. If you don't have that, you don't really have a long-term relationship. And because you can't have those deeper, fulfilling, intimate relationship conversations, your serotonin, both of you, likely is very low. This burns you out over time. This burns out the relationship. It makes you feel unloved. He has no idea that these 4 are even possible because he's never felt them. You're craving these, starving for them. Starving. This is where you feel loved. This is where he feels loved. This is the problem. Okay? This is the issue between the two of you. Your needs going unmet will lead to your brain chemistry being off, like we just talked about. And ultimately what that's going to do is create an effect where you are going to be miserable, especially if you have children together. If you have children, their brains will be craving this, and he's going to give them this. And that's where really relationships die. That's the number one driver of divorce, is when the dad, is the avoidant man, is trying to love his family, and his family feels angry and hurt and abandoned and unloved. And the wife is now angry and resentful because of the anxiety and the fear that the kids are experiencing. And the dad's anxiety and stress is growing, so he gets angrier, and that hurts everybody more. So then they think he's awful, and then he feels so misunderstood. This destroys families, you guys. This is why families fall apart. This is a major reason. This is why he's confused. This is why you're exhausted. You know what you need, and he has no idea. And you don't know how to convey it to him in a way he'll understand, because he's just endlessly confused and frustrated by these seamless, meaningless, vague words that you use about feelings and feeling loved. What does that even mean to him? He has no idea. For all of these reasons, his method of love, even though he does love you, is not sustainable. He does love you, but that's not enough. He has to learn to love you the right way, for brain chemistry, for family, and even for himself. Okay? But this is not to say that your method is necessarily the right one either. And we're going to talk about that here in a moment, because I've seen way too many women try to drive the relationship into their way of loving and make him do it. And it doesn't work. It goes catastrophically wrong. Most women mistakenly believe that they can eventually show their avoidant man how much they love him if they're just patient enough, if they're nurturing enough, warm enough, attentive enough. But again, this doesn't work. You're trying to flood him with oxytocin. But remember that his cortisol is blocking those oxytocin receptor sites. He doesn't have a frame of reference to understanding why you are trying so desperately to give him love. He thinks you're trying to give him dopamine, but in a way that's going to be smothering and controlling. He doesn't get it. So he thinks you're trying to be transactional. He thinks you're trying to get something from him. And then he doesn't receive the fullness of that relaxation, the bonding, the intimacy, because he's desperately trying to run in his head of, what are you getting from me? What are you trying to get from me? What will you try to take from me? What is the cost later that you're going to bill me for this? If you've ever seen an avoidant man, when you give him a big hug, he goes, and he just freezes. And you're like, whoa, buddy, calm down. And you're trying to hug him. If you lay his head on your lap and he's like twitching, like, what are you doing? Right? You try to like hold his hand. He's like, that's my shooting hand, or whatever, right? Like, I need that if raiders attack us. You've seen things like this, I'm sure. This is him not understanding. He won't come around to your way of thinking. His brain chemistry won't just shift to be your brain chemistry. His communication is very different from yours as well. He doesn't understand when you say, I need to feel loved. He understands risk. He understands the language of risk assessment and insurance adjustment and finances and investment. He understands risk. This is a risk. We need to manage this risk. Here's the problem. Here's what we're going to do. This is what he needs. Your approach will not do that, because your language will be, I need to feel loved. I need to feel close to you. I need this because it feels so good and I feel safe when I'm with you. The word safe doesn't enter into an avoidant man's vocabulary, but it's the number one word that women use to describe what they need to feel in a relationship. This is a massive disconnect. Your altruistic behaviors actually confuse and agitate him, because if he says, hey, why are you doing this for me? And you say, no reason, just because I love you. It doesn't compute. And his brain will click and click and click until it comes up with a solution that says, she's lying. He will think that you're lying and hiding and sneaking because you're saying that you just love him and just want to care for him. Again, oxytocin drives you to be affectionate. He's never had it, so he doesn't understand what it's like to feel compelled to be affectionate to somebody and to get fulfillment from their joy. Not really. He understands dopamine, but not necessarily oxytocin. You do, and it terrifies him. His dopamine clock, by the way, right now is winding down. If he's with you, depending how long you've been together, it's either winding down or dead. He's getting very little dopamine from you, which is why, unfortunately, a lot of avoidant men go on Instagram, look at Instagram models, get an OnlyFans, they cruise pornography websites, or if they don't, they just sit there and say, I will live in unhappiness for the rest of my life, and that is my sacrifice for my family. Back to his method of loving you. I choose to be miserable for my family and experience no joy whatsoever. That is his method of loving you. It's awful. And he's burning out, and you're burning out. Both of you feel unloved. Both of you actually feel the other one doesn't appreciate your love. Both of you feel the other one's being unreasonable. Your relationship is on a time limit. You may not know that, but now you do. Your best behaviors are the ones that are going to confuse him and drive him away. Your method of loving him and showing him love and nurturing him, it's not going to work. It almost never works. It leads to relationship destruction because it confuses him, burns you out, burns him out, and shatters the family when you guys can least afford it. So if this isn't going to work, if his method of love won't work, and if your method of love won't work either, what can you do? Here's what you need to do instead. And this is based on my 15 years of training and experience and working with thousands of avoidant men. This is the method that works. You need to unify your two approaches of loving each other. Yes, he can and should be practical and risk-focused. But he also needs to learn how to open up more. He needs those brain chemicals. He needs to understand and experience your love for him. To do this, he needs to learn about these brain chemicals and how they shape his whole approach to love, and how he's been on this but he needs to be more on this and feel all of this. This will give him options and help him find fulfillment, end his loneliness, and end his frustration at broken relationships. Okay? Yes, practical. Yes, risk-focused. Also learning this. In particular, you both need to understand how vasopressin drives bonding for avoidant men in a huge way. You need to build mutual experiences together to release this hormone. I have plenty of exercises to do this in my course, How to Love an Avoidant Man. There are exercises in there designed to drive you through the stressful conversations and help you navigate them successfully and come out the other side and both get that incredible bonding experience where your brains say, yes, this is my person. That course will help you do that. He also needs to understand how your brain is different, that you're playing with these chemicals when he's not, and how your love for him is very real. And it's not just transitory. It's not going to flake out and die. Your love for him is deep and enduring, and what you've been trying to give him all this time and why. This will help him track how much you actually do love him. See that twist? At the beginning of this, we talked about how you feel he doesn't love you. He probably also feels you don't really love him. He thinks you have random feelings that are going to die eventually, and he has to manage you, just like you think he has random feelings for you that are eventually going to die, and you have to manage him. You both feel that way. When he understands the depth of your love for him and what it does for him and his brain chemistry, he can become grateful for your love instead of rejecting it. He also needs to learn what his emotional needs even are. Again, that's back in these brain chemicals. He doesn't know them, so he can accept your help with nurturing them. This right here is where women are immensely powerful in relationships and vital for a man's health and long-term success is by helping him with these brain chemicals. These are drawn largely from our relationship with our partner. He needs to understand that you are giving him this. If he's just built on this, anything can give him this. Anyone can give him this. Anyone in an alley can give him this. Nobody can give him this. This is what he needs from you. You also need to shift your language and your approach to love so he can be comfortable with it, so he can understand your speech. Okay? He speaks a risk-focused language, focused and based on his brain chemistry. There are risks. We need to manage those risks. Let me help you manage those risks as well. I have noticed a risk in myself where I am having this emotional reaction. I think it's because this and this are happening. If we shift so that these things are not happening, my emotions will decrease, I will feel better, and I will feel more relaxed in this connection, and the risk will go away. Our relationship will be sustainable. Wow, okay, let's take care of those two things and that'll be done. Cool, thank you. Risk assessment language solves the problem fast. You need to shift your language so you can speak this to him. You also need to learn to approach him in the right way so that he welcomes you instead of running away. If you approach him in the wrong way, as I'm going to overwhelm you with needs. I have needs. You're not doing X. I'm frustrated. Okay? Big problems. Even if you approach him nervously, he's on high alert. It's not that he doesn't pay attention. He pays very focused, incredible, hyper-vigilant attention. So the more calm that you are, the better everything will be in the long term so that you can relax into the bond and make the connection happen. Now, by combining both approaches, your nurturing and faithful, diligent love and his practical risk assessment focus, by combining both of those together, you can both feel fulfilled and comfortable and safe in this relationship. And you can thrive together as a couple, and you can be a power couple who grows together over time. This means your relationship can grow and continue forever. So if you want to enjoy your 50-year wedding anniversary together, surrounded by friends and family, you need to unify your approaches to love, not pick one or the other. Now, again, if you want to learn to do this, I built the How to Love an Avoidant Man video course to walk both of you through the exact process of learning how to love each other. It will show you how he thinks, how he speaks, and how you can speak his language. And it will open his eyes for how his own brain works differently, how he's missed every sign of your love for him all this time, and how you are the person who is meant to be with him. Watch this course on your own or as a couple so that you can both understand each other like never before. That will help you unify both approaches to love and to finally blossom as a couple. You can learn more about that course at the link in the description below. So yes, avoidant men can really love you. In fact, he probably already loves you. And if you're watching this video, you probably have an avoidant man that you were wondering, yes, he almost certainly loves you. You're just missing the secret signs of his love because it looks completely different from what you expected. Now, through the course of this video, you have a better idea of what that love can look like. And you're going to need to unify your approaches to make this work. It can't be his way, and it can't be your way. The How to Love an Avoidant Man video course will help you achieve that unification together as a couple. By doing that, he will finally understand you and cherish you the way that you've always wanted. So if you want to finally feel his love for you, get your copy of How to Love an Avoidant Man today at the link in the description below. And avoidant men who are watching this, guys, I know you are out there, and I'm glad you're here. Thank you for sticking through. Please leave a comment below and let me know if I'm right about how you show love to help the women in the audience understand that this is true.